At Man City Fan TV, we're really pleased to promote this wonderful sketchwork artwork by a lady called Leslie Ross. You can follow Leslie on Twitter at 111Leslie111 and also follow her on Facebook and Twitter at 9320art.
Hi guys, it's Ray here from Man City Fan TV. I'm with the very erudite and modest Colin Savage. You'll know him from Twitter at Press Switch Blue.
Humble, don't forget humble.
Guys, if you haven't already seen the absolutely fantastic piece that Colin did with Jonathan Norcroft and Andy on FFP a couple of days ago, please go and check it out. It's had many, many thousands of views on YouTube. It's an absolutely fabulous piece, and coming as an accountant, as an ex-accountant, an auditor, and investigating myself, it's a fantastic listen. It's well worth your time listening to that. And thank you, Colin, for that. And thank you again for giving us just a few minutes of your time to give an update, because that video came out 2 or 3 days ago. And as if by magic, UEFA decided to open an investigation on Manchester City. So what I'm going to do first, I'm just going to give you, it's only a 3-line comment from a UEFA, and I'll give you also the Manchester City response. There'll be a caption on the screen, and so you can read it as I read it out. And then Colin will give us some feedback on his comments and his opinion on those 2 statements. So here we go. This is a statement from UEFA. The investigatory chamber of the independent UEFA club financial control body has today opened a formal investigation into Manchester City FC for potential breaches of financial fair play (FFP) regulations. The investigation will focus on several alleged violations of FFP that were recently made public in various media outlets. UEFA will make no further comments on the matter while the investigation is ongoing. And very soon after that, how long? But it was as if this was expected, because this statement, like a lot of obituaries from famous people, they're already written. So this is a statement for Manchester City, and it is as follows. Manchester City welcomes the opening of a formal UEFA investigation as an opportunity to bring to an end the speculation resulting from the illegal hacking and out of context publication of City emails. The accusation of financial irregularities are entirely false. The club's published accounts are full and complete and a matter of legal and regulatory record. What I will say is, City is, in the outset, City is saying that this was illegal hacking and out of context publication of emails. So, Colin, should we take the UEFA comments first?
Yeah, I think I suppose we've been expecting this to some degree, but it's interesting that a number of journalists, and this started all with Martin Ziegler when he reported Alexander Seferin's comments, as I was saying on the chat with Andy and Jonathan the other day. He added 2 and 2 and got a number that a supercomputer at GCHQ would struggle to produce.
Yeah.
And the narrative has been all along that we are under investigation by UEFA. Now, clearly, we haven't been under investigation by UEFA, but we are now. So I think that's one thing to say, that don't believe everything you read in the papers. But I think when UEFA release a statement, yes, I think it's safe to assume we are now under investigation. But
what you're saying, all those journalists that have been saying we're currently under investigation, where did they come to that conclusion? How can they come to that conclusion?
Well, because they read a story and they copied it.
Okay, fair enough.
And I must give great credit here to David Conn, because at the time David Conn actually went to UEFA and he asked them specifically about the situation, and they made it clear there was no investigation. And I certainly based my reaction to David's comments. And I must say, without name dropping, I've worked with David on a big story, and I know what his attention to detail is like. And I got phone call. I basically put the story together. It was quite a technical story, and I spent I got regular phone calls throughout the day or regular emails saying, can you just explain that to me? Are you sure about that? Who do I need to speak to about that? His attention to detail is relentless. I know some City fans get at him because they feel he's got an anti-City agenda, but he is scrupulous. And if that doesn't suit us, well, that's fine. But yeah, okay. So David originally made it clear there was no formal investigation and that Sefrin's comments had been over-egged to a certain degree. This morning in The Guardian, or last night, he's actually reporting that the Club Financial Control Body, which is the UEFA committee that looks after financial fair play, they apparently were reluctant to investigate. They didn't want to open an investigation, but have been forced into it, persuaded into it, bounced into it, whatever term you want to use, by the UEFA executive. Now, there's a number of ways you can look at this. You could say UEFA just want to get this off the table because it's just getting in the way of other things. And that's one way of looking at it. You could say that there's maybe a bit of a power struggle going on between the executive and the CFCB, because the CFCB know maybe that, you know, they don't have a very strong case, but UEFA wants something to be seen to be done. So you know, there's all this speculation about what's behind it, but I think City's statement is a good one because it says it welcomes the investigation, and now it's all in the open. And my question would be, even if we were cleared, UEFA CFCB came out and said that there were no grounds for further action, would people still believe it?
Yeah. So I think some people are relying on the fact that if you throw enough mud, some of it will stick.
Oh, absolutely.
A lot of mud has been thrown at City, and whatever happens with an investigation, if we are exonerated, let's say, I think people will still try to discredit us and still won't accept whatever the outcome, whether it's favourable or negative. If it's negative, City fans won't, some of them won't accept it. If it's favourable, other fans and most of the media won't accept it.
But if the media, if we are cleared, or we, you know, maybe we get a minor punishment or whatever, but let's say if we are cleared, then the media have no grounds, or we have no grounds to say City are in breach of UEFA rules, and that lays them open to legal action should they choose to make those accusations. So in one way, it will be good to get it off the table because then it's done.
Yeah. I mean, I noted in the media this morning. I mean, for me, it's a massive story. It's a big story. Obviously, it's about City. It's about the club I've supported and loved for over 40 years. It's about finances and things. Something I'm as an ex-accountant and an auditor and investigation and everything else, I'm sadly still interested in. But a lot of the media ignored it. The big story at the moment is Ole and United, and I thought a lot of the media ignored it because it was convenient to ignore it or to make it really small fry on the back pages, partly because it didn't suit their agenda, and partly because the story's moving on and it's getting into detail that a lot of these ordinary hacks can't comprehend. And when you're talking the stuff you talked about with Andy and Jonathan, that's getting into high levels, in-depth stuff. And even as accountants, people say, "Well, it's, you know, that's hard work to keep on top of." So your ordinary journalist who's got an agenda, some of them don't want to get too involved because it's too difficult. And for them,
it's, as a journalist, not the sort of thing you want to try and put across to your readers, even at Times Guardian level, probably. Yeah. But let's give some praise, because financial fair play has made accountancy sexy all of a sudden.
I want to go that far, Colin.
Well, but perhaps it's an exaggeration, but yeah.
I mean, and I would also say, I mean, it's very interesting to see what other fans are saying. I mean, you get the usual stuff. We had a laugh about it. The Liverpool fans who have lapped it up and are asking for a point penalty. I mean, you know, I mean that is delusion and stupidity to a.
There was a great comment on Twitter, I don't know if you saw it, by a Liverpool fan who said, "I play a lot of Football Manager, so I know a bit about financial fair play."
And I mean, one very eloquent, I won't say his name, very eloquent and good writer on Twitter. He said he's going to leave Twitter just because of the grief you get from people who don't know any better, and it's not fun. and you get abuse and grief and people just going on, and it can become tiresome. But there's one other area on the media that I'm disappointed with, and it's the choice of language. And I said this yesterday when I saw this report on the BBC. Now, the BBC referred, when we were talking about the investigation, they referred to these as leaked documents. Now, to me, that gives the impression that someone within the club leaked them out. Okay? But my feeling is it's more than likely that they were either stolen or hacked. And so the choice of words that media outlets use can be very either deliberately or accidentally misleading. So I think they have to be very careful of the choice of words, especially going forwards. I'm just looking ahead to when this investigation is concluded, because they're going to have to be really careful. If they, like you say, if they're going to keep on trying to find something to say about City on the FFP, and if we are exonerated, they're going to be on dodgy ground.
Yeah, well, that's the point. The BBC is an interesting one, actually, because at the time Matthew Hedges was imprisoned in Dubai, Dubai or Abu Dhabi, Dubai, I think it was. The BBC, which is supposed to be, we're all supposed to look up to the BBC as the high point of responsible, objective journalism.
Yeah.
And it hasn't got an owner. It's not state-owned. And it has a full charter, and it condemned his 5-minute trial. Now, I think a few people complained about that, and it was removed because, of course, whatever the deficiencies of the legal process, he had a number of hearings, and it was the sentencing hearing they were referring to, not the trial. And they did remove it, fair enough, but I think we've always got to be careful about tone and language and context, which was the point I made to. And City were obviously watching the video that we did with Jonathan, because they talked about out of context, which is one of the things obviously I talked about. So, but they haven't acknowledged, they haven't given me a credit for that. So I assume it's something their legal team has come up with.
But yeah, I mean, it's going to be very interesting what happens, or it's very hard to guess how long it's going to take. I think that's going to be interesting, and there's a lot of grey areas, because what are UEFA going to look at? How far can they go?
Yeah.
To go to.
I was going to come to that if you want to talk about it briefly. All we know is what Der Spiegel have published. So if City say it's out of context, and I think that City have got quite a good case for saying out of context. It's very easy to publish a document which says one thing, but you don't get the full context of the rest of the documents. So we're only going on what we've all seen in Der Spiegel. Now, from what I can see, there are 3 potential areas they might be looking at. There's the issue of the Etihad deal not being fully funded by Etihad. There's the issue of the other Abu Dhabi sponsorships being, again, only part funded by the companies involved and potentially overvalued. And then I think there's the image rights issue as well. Now, to kind of quickly, I'm not going to go into the technicalities, to quickly tackle those one by one. Etihad, one of the things being thrown at us is, our owners putting in funds in this disguised way. So it's disguised owner investment. Let me read to you from UEFA's own website on the Q&A they do on financial fair play. Question 5, are owners allowed to inject money into their club as they like, or through sponsorship? UEFA's answer: if a club's owner injects money into the club through a sponsorship deal with a company to which he is related, then UEFA's competent bodies will investigate and, if necessary, adapt the calculations of the break-even result for the sponsorship to the level which is deemed appropriate, which is fair value according to market prices. This is where Etihad comes in, because we know from the Der Spiegel documents that when UEFA were investigating the original failure FFP back in 2013-14, they deemed the Etihad sponsorship to be fair value. That's even, and there was a dispute, the whole related party thing. I'm not going to go into the technicalities. It's an accounting, standard global accounting concept, which UEFA have adopted word for word, comma for comma. They've added a little bit of their own. So it's all based around the global accounting definition of what's a related party. City don't believe that Etihad is a related party. They don't believe that Arbar and Etisalat are also related parties, because you have to have some element of joint control. And the fact that they're based in Abu Dhabi and our owner is based in Abu Dhabi makes not a jot of difference in that respect. If Sheikh Mansour were the chief executive of Etihad, almost certainly they'd be a related party. So to give some examples of related parties, company I used to work for, one of the directors, his wife had her own company, and her company supplied consulting services to our company. So the company had to state in their accounts that these were related parties, the value of the contract, how much work had been done, and the fact it was done at market rates. In City's own accounts, when John Wardle was chairman, he bought a box, or he had use of a hospitality executive box. And again, he was because he's chairman of the company, he's a related party. So the related party note said Jay Wardle has availed himself of hospitality facilities and has paid market commercial rates for the use of these facilities. So it's making sure everything's above board. Now with Etihad, even if it's not a related party, if it's deemed to be a third party, the companies can do what they like because there's no conflict of interest. So that's one side of it. If Etihad were deemed to be a related party, as long as that sponsorship is within agreed market value, fair market value, we'll call it, then it doesn't matter where the money has come from. Sheikh Mansour could provide it from his kids' piggy banks, and it would be okay under UEFA's own rules. So any suggestion that Sheikh Mansour is using Etihad to disguise his own investment is completely irrelevant. It's completely off the table. So there should be no issue as regards the Etihad sponsorship. So let's get that off the table. Wherever the money is coming from, whether it's 8 million from Etihad and 50 million from Sheikh Mansour or some other party, it's not relevant as long as it's a fair transaction. Now, the other thing we learned, and we learned that UEFA were happy with the Etihad deal from the district. So I think that one's off the table. Anyone saying the Etihad deal is under investigation, I think they're barking up the wrong tree. Then there's the Arbar Etisalat deals, and we could see from some of the documents that these were contracted about £3 million per annum, but actually they're paying us £15 million per annum. This is where we get a little bit more grey area. So the question then comes, again, are Arbar Etisalat related parties? City and their auditors say no. UEFA and their auditors say they could well be. So everything hinges on that. Again, if they're not related parties, it doesn't matter. If they're deemed to be third parties, it doesn't matter what the size of the sponsorship, where the money comes from.
Long fair value.
Not if they're not related parties, the fair value test doesn't even come into it.
Okay.
I'm
just saying it does sound a bit
odd. So no, Nissan could pay us 100 million a year. Hayes could pay us 50 million a year. They're not related parties. So the test, the fair value test, would never come into those sponsorships. I don't think they pay us anything remotely close to that, by the way. But so a lot of it's about related parties and definitions. So almost certainly that would have to be tested in court if we were to go down that route. Okay. So because the two sides have a very different view. The third, so that's all open. And another thing to say about those is UEFA again were aware of that those sponsorships were what they considered to be overvalued, because PricewaterhouseCoopers, their auditors, had reported that they felt, and they got brand consultants to say that a fairer amount would be, can't remember what it was, 8 million euros a year compared to the 15 million, whatever it was. Okay, so those are the sort of numbers we're talking about potentially. But UEFA knew about them. And if everyone thinks back to the terms of the 2014 settlement agreement, one of the terms in that, we had agreed voluntarily not to increase what they call the tier 2 sponsorships, which was Arbar Etisalat, one must presume, above their current values. So the question is, if we've kept those to the same value, we've met our terms of the settlement agreement. So again, it's potentially difficult to see how UEFA could go back and tackle us over something that we've agreed with them. We we're going to do and have kept to.
Yeah. Okay. So then the third thing is the image rights.
Image rights. Now, just to explain what happened here, what seems to have happened, alleged to have happened, purported to have happened, whatever word you want to use, we don't know, is that image rights are obviously the part of players' salaries that are paid in respect of their media images. So they allow their images to be used for advertising, promotion, and stuff like that. I got a photo of Sergio at the CFA last night, but I didn't pay him anything for that. So I better check.
Jammy so and so.
Yeah, it was the back of his head, so it's half price. Anyway, so these are paid in a slightly different way than your salary would be paid. I think I don't want to go. I think they're paid to separate, often to limited companies that the players set up. They're not part of your PAYE payslip type stuff, as far as I understand it.
Yeah.
Now the allegation is that we've set up a company with a third party. We're paying the image rights out of that company, and the Sheikh is reimbursing, or someone, Abu Dhabi, is reimbursing the company, that Fordham Image Rights, I think it's called, Sports Images. Someone is reimbursing that company for its payments. So it's basically a way of taking those payments off our accounts. Now, again, there is absolutely nothing wrong with this in principle, and I'm told that at least a couple of other of our top 6 peers, probably all of them, do the same thing. So again, it's a question of, have we done anything wrong, or are we just doing something that everyone else does?
Trying to summarize, this is just an opinion piece now. Obviously, we don't know. What do you think is the next step with UEFA, and how can they maximise, if they want to, the damage to City?
Well, again, it's an opinion piece. We don't know, do we? We have to wait and see. My opinion is that there's pressure on UEFA to do something, but a bit like, I think we're in the same territory we were in the settlement. Pressure on them to do something, but they don't want to do too much. So maybe it will be a bit of a slap on the wrist. Maybe we will make some sort of agreement with them that we will do or we won't do certain things. Maybe we'll bring some of these third-party things in-house. Maybe we'll bring image back. And actually, looking at our financial fair play numbers, I don't think bringing these things in-house actually makes any difference to us.
That's 500 million.
Well, as far as I can see, the image rights company is paying out about 7 million a year per annum. It's difficult to see because they don't publish a profit and loss account, because it's what they call a bridge. But you can kind of work out from the balance sheet how much money is going in. So it seems to be they're putting out no more than 7 million a year.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's difficult to see, but it's not hundreds of millions going out. So and looking at our financial fair play numbers, because we've been reporting profits, on top of those profits we can add back probably about 20 million of expenditure on allowable things like youth and women's football and certain elements of capital spending and blah blah blah. So I reckon that as things stand, we've got a pot of about 90 million in credit on FFP, whereas we can go down to about 25 million loss. So even if we added everything in, if we threw everything into the pot, we might be down to 50 million in credit. So I suspect we might come to an agreement that will have everything under one roof, because we spun off these 2 other companies, City Football Marketing, City Football Services. We put staff into those companies. We paid wages out of those companies. They cross-charged for services. They were centralised services. But I think it was noticeable for the 2018 accounts, about 150 staff had come back into City's accounts. And that would seem to be the majority of staff in those companies have come back in-house. So maybe a slap on the wrist. Maybe we'll agree to do some certain things or not do certain things, and then hopefully we'll all move on. Now the other interesting thing, just one thing.
Yeah.
The Jean-Louis Dupont case, I think we talked about it with Jonathan. That was resurrected 2 or 3 weeks ago. And again, to explain, it's been bouncing about between Belgian court system and the European Court of Justice. And both the Belgian court said, Europe have got a rule on that. Europe said, no. Belgium's got a rule on that. So, a bit of a hot potato.
Go back to Belgium.
It's back to Belgium. And Belgium had heard a case that, again, Jean-Louis had bought on third-party ownership. And he won that case.
Yeah.
And UEFA, I believe, are appealing. But from what I gather from a contact close to this, the judge has said, but because it's tied up with financial fair play and the legal, not in terms of the detail of the case, but because the legal issues about who has jurisdiction are tied up, they're going to hear they have heard the financial fair play case, and that we are expecting a judgment on that within the next 6 weeks by the end of April. And I was told this morning that Monsieur Dupont, as the old saying goes, is confident that if the decision is in his favour, then this case collapses, this investigation collapses.
Well, it's very interesting to see. And a final point, it's an opinion piece again, one word answer. Will this investigation and anything that comes from it end up in the courts, do you think, in the European, some sort of...
I would be highly doubtful. I know you said one word answer. I'll tell you why. I've said this before. When we were looking at this whole thing in 2014, court was obviously an option. Now, the one problem when you go to court is you have to disclose all your relevant documentation. So all the stuff in Der Spiegel would have had to come out, would have been in the open, in an open court. But on the same basis, all the UEFA documentation would have been on an open table in our hands, our lawyers' hands, in the same. Now, it's almost though we're clear of that because, all right, the stuff's been, I think we said the stuff's been hacked at Der Spiegel, some of it's been released, but that's kind of in the open.
Yeah.
So we've got that monkey off our back. UEFA are still in the clear.
I don't think the UEFA want their stuff to come out.
It's quite clear if you read David Kahn's article, which I highly recommend, it's quite clear UEFA are going into this, dragging their feet.
Yeah.
And it's a case of, we probably have to be seen to be doing something. It may even be that they obviously will know about the Dupont case. It may even be that they're doing this hoping that case, the verdict in that case, will pull the rug from under the feet, and they can turn around and say, we tried, Gov, not our fault.
Yeah. I really enjoy listening to Colin because his level of knowledge, in-depth level of knowledge, is far surpasses any of the old hacks that you see out there reporting on this stuff. There's very few people who go into this level of detail and who have this level of knowledge who aren't either working for UEFA on FFP or working for the clubs or firm of accountants or lawyers for the clubs doing FFP. So, we're very grateful, very thankful, and, very humble as well you are, Colin.
Well, you go and pick up your kids before they get taken into care. Or would that be a benefit?
I'm going to have to edit this out now. But anyway, thanks. I'm going to try and work out how I get this into the 6 or 7 minutes that I said I'd do. But that's for the weekend. But thanks very much. And blues and non-blues, journalists who are out there looking at this and non-journalists, please, if you haven't seen our other video about FFP, it's the most fantastic discussion with Jonathan Norcroft and Colin and Andy sat there, Lou breaks aside, mediating the two of them and facilitating that. And if any of you guys are at Watford, please come up and say hi. I'm sure you'll be there, Colin. Andy will be there. I'll be there. And we all love to chat and love to listen. See you around, Blues.